So, it does raise a lot of questions about, like, what the hell, right? What the hell? American citizens have died and you're hiding it? Why are you hiding that? Why would you hide that?
Perhaps because they don't have any explanations. Because it's so beyond our comprehension that they're still trying to piece it together. Like, I would wonder how much interaction they really do have with these things. Like, if I was from another planet or if I was some interdimensional being, I don't know how much I'd give a shit about the president. I don't know how much I'd give a shit about the government. I would probably look at this infantile race, this species, this bizarre territorial apes with thermonuclear weapons, this very weird species. I'd probably look at them as very chaotic, and I wouldn't really have much concern for who's running it, especially if they have the ability to travel at insane speeds and go undetected. And
depends, like that. Okay, so the template that you're using to understand this is like science fiction, right? These are an advanced race of beings from somewhere else. But the template that every other society before us has used is a spiritual one. Mm-hmm. There is a whole world that we can't see that acts on people, a supernatural world that's acting on us all the time for good and bad. Every society has thought this before ours. In fact, every society in all recorded history has thought that until, I'll be specific, August 1945, when we dropped the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And all of a sudden, the West is just officially secular. We're God. There is no God but us. And that's the world that we have grown up in, but that's an anomaly. Like, no one else has ever thought that. There's never been a society that thought that. Every other society has assumed, and they've had all kinds of different explanations, and the details differ, but the core idea does not differ, never has differed from caves until now, that we're being acted on by spiritual forces at all times. And so to someone born before or living before 1945, I think it would have been much more obvious that this is the thing that every society has written about. And in fact, that battle, that unseen battle around us, that spiritual battle, has like been the basis of every society, of every religion, not just Christianity. Once you discard your very, very recent assumptions, relatively speaking, about how the world works, you're like, well, that kind of seems like the obvious explanation, right?
It's not that obvious to me.
What's more obvious, do you think?
Well, I don't think there's an obvious explanation. I think if I had to guess, some of this stuff is ours. And some of these things are propulsion systems that they theorized way back in the 1950s. Anti-gravity propulsion systems, things that can operate without igniting fuel and pushing something out, that they operate in some completely different way that utilizes gravity and almost can instantaneously transport to new places, essentially fold space-time. So there's things that the government does where they have these programs. And the people that are sworn into these programs, whether they're the physicists or, the metallurgists or whoever these people are that are working on these programs, they don't tell anybody. All their phones are monitored. Everything's monitored. There's a culture of secretism that's pretty intense. And it's not inconceivable that over the course of the last 70-plus years of them theorizing and then eventually implementing some of these things, that they've developed drones that can move in ways that the people that understand conventional propulsion systems could not imagine. And that they've figured out a way to do this and to keep it secret. And we're probably not the only ones working on these things. But where did they get that information? And have you Diana Pasulka? Do you know her work?
Yep.
Like they describe these crafts, these crash crafts, as donations, which is fascinating. Like that they're left there. The crashed retrieval program, the crashed UAP retrieval program, is essentially they're going like, figure this out. We're going to crash this thing here. You figure this out. And the question is, if that's true, okay, where are these things coming from? Are they, if there's something that is so advanced that it's decided to leave us a little trinket for us to back engineer, is that from another dimension? Is that from here? Is that from some realm that we just don't have access to? Is it from another planet? We have drones that are on other planets right now. We have a drone on Mars. We have, the lunar rovers. We have satellites that we send to observe and photograph other planets. If something was like us on another planet but lived uninterrupted with technology advancing for 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 1,000,000 years more than us, what would that be like? And how much would we be able to understand of what we're seeing? What would we be able to see? And this idea that we monitor our skies, sure, but if something just appears and disappears essentially instantaneously, if something literally can fold time, can fold space, and just traverse between immense distances almost instantaneously, what are we going to see? What are we going to see? And also, like, what kind of detection systems do we have? We have radar, we have visual, we have a bunch of different military-based detection systems to look out for enemy crafts and airships and all that stuff. But if you're dealing with something that's 1,000,000 years more advanced than us, how much would we be able to detect?
Well, so I think we're pointing to the same question. I mean, I have no doubt that the U.S. government has technology that we don't know the details of. That makes sense.
Sure.
But, like, where did it come from?
Right.
I'm not even sure, this is a separate question, but related. I'm not even sure we really know where nuclear technology came from, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Like the Manhattan Project?
Yeah, like we know the Manhattan, we know something about the Manhattan Project, but like where exactly did that, it came from Germany. German scientists were working on it. Okay. Well, it's a separate conversation, but the one person I know who's really pushed it, was writing a book on it, who's a trustworthy person and a friend of mine, I know you know him, said to me, actually, I spent a year working on this, and the closer I got to, like, okay, but what's the genesis? Like, where did this? What was the Isaac Newton apple on the head? Oh, gravity's real moment for fission? Not clear. Weird. I don't know the answer. But here's the point. Clearly, government has technology that we're not read in on.
Right.
Of course. But so that doesn't answer the question, why have people seen these objects in the skies for thousands of years?
Right.
Confirmed. And what are they? And maybe they're from another planet. My only point is there's no evidence of that. There's a huge amount, a massive corpus of evidence that they're seen by people in our atmosphere, on Earth looking up or in a submarine looking out. And what is that? And by the way, to your point, like, we can't see them coming into our atmosphere because they don't want to be seen. Well, then why do they want to be seen by people on Earth? Like, if the technology is that advanced, and clearly it is, why do they make themselves visible in the first place?